and what have you, not too bright, but part of their role in life was to put you down, especially if you're the only black person. I refused that assigned role. Let's just say that in the end, they liked me enough to invite me to their most exclusive club called the Assassins, where the paying fee was enough champagne to shower everybody in. I'm trying to say that the first thing you have to do is to undo your mental shackles. Now, let me go back on script. I was asked to talk about high-stakes boardroom decision, the high-stakes boardroom decision-making in an era of disruption. That's a wide topic. It's like saying, how long is a piece of string? I'll try and do it justice in the next half hour or so. And I'll do it justice in the following order. Tell you a bit about my board experience so that you know I have a legitimate right to be talking to you. And then go on to talk about why we should be having this conversation, the role of boards and board dynamics, the types of disruption we are describing here. And these are not emergencies. We are talking about disruptions that permanently alter the way that things are done and what to do. As I do all this, please remember that in boardrooms today, the biggest disruptions, the biggest sources of disruption and disturbance and angst and anger and perhaps crying over a hard drink is you people. You interlopers, you people who have come from nowhere to come and disrupt the accepted order of things, come to run boards, come to tell us what we are. So, yep, you are disruptors, so you need to think from the both sides. Right, my board history goes back a very long way, actually. When after college, I went to work for a bank in London, and then came back here, and I worked for Gridley's Bank, and at the age of 28, I was asked to represent Gridley's Bank on a board of a sugar company, Chemelil, where we had done a loan which entitled us to a board seat. So I started seeing board dynamics at a pretty early stage, and I've gone on since then, and three presidents, President Moi, President Kibaki, and President Uhuru Kenyatta, to be on the boards of CCK, now CA, ICDC, Safaricom, Konza, and also gone to various private sector boards, like my brilliant and extremely short-lived career as chairman of Safaricom. In those capacities, I've been a director, I've been a chairman, I've had an oversight role over various parastatals. I remember the moniker, the media here, who had stuck to me a moniker of chairman of chairmen, which it was true. I had a board whose all board members were just chairmen, way back in 2020. And I've seen a lot, gone through various disruptions, gone through various changes, gone through various iterations, gone through various reimaginings of how boards work. So that is me. That is what I've done. I now only chair one significant board, which is the board of AR Holdings, which is the holding company for AR Insurance. So I've turned my attention to health, away from matters of money into matters of health. Now, I also do board training at Strathmore. I was co-opted as an occasional teacher. They call it adjunct faculty. And my role there is really to talk to board chairs. You'll be surprised how many people, men and women alike, don't know and are terrified of board responsibilities, don't know how to manage these living organisms, because they are living organisms, don't know how to manage board dynamics, are terrified of asserting authority over their board members. I speak to women who might tell my first rules of education to them is stop accepting being chair of some bloody soft thing. say you want to be head technical or audit or something that gives you, and stop sitting at the end of the table, come sit by the bench. All these things which may look small, but actually are quite important. So that's what I do as a hobby. My favorite, or rather, the topics on which I'm usually asked to talk are navigating the discontinuities of government leadership changes, and if anybody is an expert, it should be me. My very high-profile departures did not go unnoticed, and the other one is leading with emotional intelligence, which is where I think a lot of you come in. Now, talk about disruptions. If you think you're having it bad in Kenya, globally, it's awful. You've got the reversal, Elizabeth, I'm sorry to say, of many of the gains that were made with women on diversity. If you look at the major Western companies today, especially the US ones, not European, the US ones, there is almost a reversion back, a beginning of a reversion back to the mean, where diversity, equality, and inclusivity are regarded as dirty words. And I would not be surprised if that trend came out here. You've got, my son runs external affairs for Coca-Cola in the region. And he was telling me that holding the line by his colleagues out in the US is becoming harder and harder, where even investors say, do the opposite. Say, if you have DEI policies, we will not invest in you. So the world is in a flux in terms of those kinds of disruptions that affect people like you. There are disruptions of technology. I keep hearing of banks and others hiring the first young person they see with wild hair who has a vague tech association, because they're terrified of what tech will do for them. They don't know what to do, so they think that anybody with any vague intimations of expertise will come and sort their problems out for them. There's competition, ferocious. I have been telling Kenyan companies that a major byproduct of Mr. Trump's tariffs, tariff and policy towards countries like China, will be that Kenyan companies are going, Kenyan and African companies are going to be thoroughly wiped off, because all that surplus Chinese capacity, surplus Vietnamese capacity, has to go somewhere, and it'll end up in Europe, where ours go. Just the other day, by the way, by the way, they are beginning coffee farming in the UK because of climate change. Suddenly, our God-given right, or so we thought, to export coffee to Europe is under threat. These things are there. You've got regulatory. My banking friends know all about that in Kenya and elsewhere. And you've got generational challenges. You've got, leave alone you've got young people telling boards and companies, you don't know what you're doing, we will not work this hour, we will not do this, we will not do that, we will come in as. So those disruptions to the way that things are done are things that are affecting organizations, public and private alike. Let's remind ourselves of the classic role of boards, which was governance and strategy. Sounds like a good, comfortable world, isn't it? All you have to think about is governance and strategies. You don't have to think about the Elizabeths at the UN giving you a hard time because of diversity. You don't have to think about the environment. I remember being on the board of Base Titanium 10 years ago when it struck us that we did need very much so to take up the issue of communities around the mine, because government would not But we were the ones on the ground, and we had no choice but to take up that role of building up the communities. Any of you, whoever has a chance to go down the road to Kwale, will be stunned at what Base did in the light of that. I think we have a panel discussion here on purpose-driven boards and companies. That's become real. When I first went into boards, who would have thought about? We thought about bottom line. Are we delivering to our shareholders? We were all believers in Milton Friedman's creed, the University of Chicago, that what the only people to whom we owed any responsibility were the shareholders. That comforting world has been shattered, and I doubt whether even with the current reverses it will come back. I think we are on the swing of a pendulum, but it will go back. So boards find themselves in a very strange situation. Already boards had challenges in getting a grip on their companies. Anybody who's been on a board chair here knows, or on a board, knows just how difficult it is to keep chief executives under control. Equally wrong. Then, on top of that, you now have all these exogenous forces, your activists, your groups pushing for environment, pushing for diversity, pushing for sensitivity to give back to community, and so on and so on and so forth. You're asking boards to really change, and that has been a major challenge for all boards, not just boards dominated by women, and it's not just the issue of women on boards. It is the issue of boards having to rethink. And remember, we are rethinking in an environment where we are at first base. You know the old adage, if you want to make chicken stew, the first thing you do is to catch a chicken, to catch the chicken. In our economies, we haven't even caught the chicken, and we're already talking about these policies. And I think one CEO told me, I'd rather close down and go to Asia where they don't think about side things. I'm tired of doing, those are the challenges that modern boards are now having to contend with. Those are the disruptions that modern boards are having to contend with. And remember also what I said at the beginning, that boards are living organisms. They have their own dynamics. Let me tell you, managing boards is tough. The way I like to put it, now talking from a chairman's perspective, is your eyes with 10 pairs of eyes looking back at you. They're more than you are. They're plotting. They're doing many things. You need to know how to manage them. You need to know how to set members against. You need guile. You need, let's just say, all of you are mothers. You know how to deal with multi-children, children including their fathers. Those are the kinds of skills you need. And actually, as an aside, I've never thought why women don't think that way. The fact that you are able to manage, forget the multitasking, that's one thing. But the fact that you're able to manage these children in your home, beginning with your husbands or partners, should be excellent training for managing a board. But that's a lecture for another day. So, what kind of disruptions are afoot in the world? I already mentioned a few. I think the first thing to say is that they are not linear, and they are mixed up. So you don't get one disruption to the exclusion of another, or you don't get one disruption followed by another. The world is not in time. They are all coming down at you. There is performance. Anybody who heads a Kenyan corporate today will be, maybe other than banks, and even banks aren't exactly sitting comfortable, will tell you that business performance and business prospects are tough. And that not only are they tough, the markets are changing. So you've been doing one thing. I remember as a stark example when M-Pesa came and banks, after trying to kill it before it took off, then had to contend with this animal who had taken off from where equity had started, and suddenly our lunches were gone. We had to cope with that. We had to go digital. Do you know what disruption going digital and the amount of investment that banks like KCB have had to engage in to be able to operate in a fintech space? We are talking about those kinds of technological changes driving business performance or non-performance. Now put yourself in the shoes of a major company in Europe, America, or whatever, contending with the impact of AI, and seeing all the investment dollars flowing into AI and flowing away from you and your needs and business. Those are the kinds of disruptions that are taking place. There are strategy and shareholder changes. I don't know whether any of you have ever been in a company, in a senior position in a company, when the company has either changed shareholders or changed directions. Those are the kinds of things that will happen here. I think through, for example, if you're the board chair of Bamburi, and suddenly you are no longer being owned and directed by a comfortable, satisfied European-based shareholder, but now you are being run by a man who wants his money now. You need to adjust to that, to his friends, and so on and so forth. Those disruptions will occur more and more of the corporations here leave. Should the privatization quite new, they will, although they thought I was a complete bastard, I think find that their new owners will be 10 times worse. Events. Catherine was with me at KQ. I was on the board there when Catherine was our long-serving company secretary. And we had Ebola. We had COVID. Elizabeth, your challenges yesterday are a direct outcome of Ebola and COVID those years ago. KQ has never really recovered from what Ebola did to its West strategy. And COVID, and today you have an airline short of equipment, very short of equipment, unable to do what it, but it's a consequence of not only the action, the events that took place, but the reaction to those events, which is what we are talking about. With hindsight, and I'm glad to say I wasn't on the board then at Ebola time, with hindsight, KQ could have handled Ebola better. But then if you contrast with COVID, where we took advantage of, I don't know whether Catherine, you are still on the board, but we actually gave ourselves the courage to confront our pilots and actually brought costs down and got KQ to a position where it could at least announce some operational profits. Again, it tells you what reactions, why one's reactions to those, the board's reactions to those disruptions matter. And I'm not sure whether I should be pleased or ashamed to say I was the leader of the hardline faction which advocated extreme reaction, but it worked. You've got government leadership changes. I will not say much about that, but I'll say I'm a walking example, but B, I can tell you, those of you who run or are on the boards of state corporations, any time you have a change in administration, and we've had quite a few in the last few decades. Every time you have it, it is tough. I really do admire the courage and fortitude of those who man those ramparts that they're able to manage the changes in policy, in personnel, in influence, in direction of the company. And I know that many of you aspire to be heads of state corporations. Remember, those changes impact the state corporations far more than others. You've got policy and regulatory changes, and you've got stakeholder expectations, which I've talked about earlier. So you've got all manner of disruptions, many times happening at the same time. How is a board to navigate this? How is a board to sit and say, why can't a board just say, our job is to make policy and give strategic direction and its management to do these things? A board, let me tell you, that argument is one that doesn't work, although I know that when I was chairing Kenya Pipeline, there were many attempts to make me stick to that narrow lane, which I refused, because ultimately, whether it's a public company or a publicly owned company or a private company, the shareholders expect you as a board to look at these wide issues, not to expect that management will do all the thinking for you, and all you'll do is to sit in the boardroom, have a quiet snooze, and pick up your lances and go home happy. So board dynamics matter. Board dynamics are very important for the chair and others to understand why we are doing what we're doing. It's critical for the board always to keep in mind why it's there. And I won't talk about much about that, because it's part of the panel discussion. But it is astonishing how such a simple requirement as knowing why you exist is missing in many boards, and is a major reason for whether you will succeed or not in navigating these disruptions. How many boards do what if scenarios? How many boards ask, will the world be the same today, tomorrow, and forever? What changes can we expect? And then, of course, from a practical perspective, the discussions are already underway. What do you actually do? First of all, you have to know what you know. What don't you know? What don't you know that you don't know? I think you really do need to be brutally honest with yourselves. What can we do? We've got tech disruptions in the banking industry. Do we have the latest fintech guy, the flashiest one, the one who is in all the magazines, or do we actually decide what is our problem, what is our business, and what do we need in terms of technology to make our business go? What are others doing? Who do we need to bring in? You know, when we had the change of administration in 2022, I took a long, hard look, went off to London and just went to Mount College in Oxford, and just I spent a week and came back and decided that perhaps I was not the right person for the coming years. And perhaps it is right for board members and board chairs and boards themselves to decide whether they are the right creature to be taking the organization forward in the face of these disruptions, or whether it would be best if they stepped aside before the institution was run over. That's a quick rundown of things that I keep thinking about. I hope at least A, I've kept you awake. B, I've planted a few seeds which can make you think through. Disruptions are coming. Not whether they will come. They are coming, they are afoot, they are upon us. You need to manage them. Sanjay.
Thank you very much, John. Thank you. Disruptions. Okay. The one that shocked me is, do you know? We had the disruptors, but what he said, you know, among the last statements, do you know what you don't know, and do you know that you don't know? Something like that. You know, that was a wake-up call, isn't it? Yeah? So I think we won't take questions at this point. We go straight into the panel discussion. And then, so John, you can take the seat at the podium. And I will invite Claire. Claire Munde will be moderating that panel. Then we can take the questions after the panel discussion, isn't it? Over to you, Claire.
Thank you so much, Rose.